Hi everyone, I'm Wendy Wicks. I'm at the Lamoureux Landing Wine Cellars in the Finger Lakes on beautiful Seneca Lake. And I'm here not just because I brought my husband with a glass of wine and a nice dinner for, doing the videotape for this assignment, but because I was really impressed this week with the lecture of David Harvey, a professor, anthropologist out of the CUNY system, who I thought did an outstanding job in discussing neoliberalism and particularly its intersection with the entrepreneurship of New York State. And I think what really impacted me there was the discussion of New York City in 1975, when the city was notoriously on the verge of bankruptcy. And for years and years, New York City had a real great social democrat, my bias I guess, but in the form of Mayor Lindsay, who provided many great opportunities in the academic sector, in healthcare, and human services. And eventually, in 1975, the investment bankers took a look at the books and said, enough already, this will not stand. We are taking over city government. And this was a huge crisis, obviously, for the city mayor who had just come in the year before, Abe Beame. And the biggest issue was, what do we do with this crisis? It was one thing for, the bankers to take over the city, but it became more of a discussion of what is New York going to do to kind of reconfigure its economics. And it became very entrepreneurial in nature as a result. So 1975 was interesting to me personally. I was getting ready to graduate from school. I had just weeks earlier decided I was going to start a resume business. Even though I was going to be teaching for a year, I figured that was a nice little thing to do. And also because I noticed, I went to school in the Finger Lakes, and whenever I was driving back and forth, I noticed like a stray vineyard somewhere. And I didn't really think about it much at the time. I was, the drinking age was 18. I could have gone, but I wasn't a wine drinker. I didn't ever, go to these places. And there weren't very many of them, but they kind of stuck in my head. I just remember noticing that. And the economy in Rochester, which is where I was from, was booming. Kodak was doing fantastically, as was Xerox, as was Bausch & Lomb, and so many of the other companies, manufacturing companies in the private sector. It would be only 15 years later when everything started to go awry, but at that time, things were really good. So I remember 1975 specifically, and reading the Times almost every day about what was going to happen in New York. So what did happen out of New York is it did become very entrepreneurial. The city went to the state, and there was always bad blood between Rockefeller and Lindsay, I think just because of jealousy and personality and so forth, and Lindsay didn't always get his way or what he wanted. But it was the federal government that made its really kind of a famous remark, drop dead New York. I don't think that's what Gerald Ford actually said, but the intent, at least according to the Daily News, was that the federal government did not want to get itself involved in New York City finances, and the heck with it, do something different. So it did. This is when the I Love New York campaign came about, and New York was always a mecca for everything great, but now the campaign, in a very deliberate way, wanted to invite people from around the country to come here to vacation, to enjoy the great culture that was just, uniquely New York's. The recreational attributes, the lakes, the Finger Lakes, so many, the oceans everywhere. And also, more importantly, according to the investment bankers, was going to be the need to fix the finances and make New York City the global center of the world. And obviously the biggest symbol for that was the development, the erection of the World Trade Center. And nobody initially wanted to even be housed there. No companies wanted to go in. So again, it was government that became the chief tenants, the city agencies, the state agencies, and eventually that obviously changed. But that's how it was, at the beginning. And everything, came together as far as, entrepreneurial behavior in New York. So now it just makes me so happy to see that the wine industry, as everything in the manufacturing sector has gone south in not just the greater Rochester community, but that, of course, is obviously important. But in addition to, the knowledge industry, we're lucky to have this. And now we've got a new industry that's going world class, and the Finger Lakes are being touted in international magazines, and so this is new growth. And as Forrest Gump said, that's all I'm going to say about that. But first I will say cheers, folks. Thanks.